Okay, part 3, and I hope the last part, just everything that I left out. I don't think in the last video that I mentioned my sister also had to go through a couple interviews with CPS agents, and my sister was not allowed to live with my parents at the time. She stayed with my grandparents, with one set of grandparents, and then I stayed with another set of my grandparents. And my parents were only allowed to see me once they were like 100% that it was not them, and they were only allowed to see me on supervised visits. Like, they had to come to my grandparents' house, and so did a CPS agent. That was the only time they could see me. Okay, now what they actually think the babysitter did. Okay, I couldn't remember the name of this thing for the life of me, but they think that I was sitting in this, and based on the way that my shoulders were dislocated, both of them, she basically took me by my wrist and like yanked me out. And then I think there were other injuries other than like my head, but I don't remember like 100%, so I'm just gonna go to the big ones. So they basically assume that she was holding me up by my armpits and shook me, basically banging my head up against a very sharp object. I also had a pretty large skull fracture, because based on the skull fracture, they were guessing that it was either, just for some perspective, they either think that it was like this part of the corner of a wall, like the sharp part, or this, which is like the side part of a granite countertop. And I kind of already told like the story of what went down kind of between our family and such, so I'll just stay on like the medical part of it and why I actually have the scar on my stomach for a head injury, or multiple head injuries. So because I was only 4 months old, I still had the soft spot on my head that you have when you're born, and it hadn't fully developed, which is actually most likely the only reason that I am alive today. So it didn't allow for my brain to actually bleed outside of my body, so I just had like intracranial bleeding. So they put what is called a subdural shunt in my brain, which basically came right here and went all the way down, like a tube went all the way down through my chest and into my stomach. It is really difficult to show on camera. It's easy to find and like show you in person, but I actually do have a pretty big scar that goes all around my head and multiple. I have 2 right here for the surgery done on my eyes, and then I obviously have the scar on my stomach. So why it did happen so young, everything was pretty much fixed besides the severe brain damage that I do have to my frontal lobe that affects me every day. You could definitely see the shunt as well as the pretty big bump that I had on my head, which I still have. It's just not as noticeable, but I know there's a picture where you can see it, and I'm going to try to find it.